Oh, she has a stone up. Probably if I could. Yeah. Yeah. For errands. Yeah. Oh, I didn't think she did. Yeah, my gosh, poor thing. She's online. She's sick.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Something happened or something.
There it is. I will leave in town on Wednesday. I hope I don't think it.
This month is one evening. It's a top one. On fluish. Where are you going?
To Williamsburg.
Oh,
My sisters and my cousin Emily were spending 5 days.
it's so funny, isn't it?
Yeah, Emily lives there and my sisters live in Phoenix and Emily. So we try to get there at least once a year.
Supposed to be.
Nice.
Are you gonna talk about you?
Maybe.
I don't. Yucky old marsh. Yucky old marsh.
All right, it's 6 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. I'll start with the pledge. The flag's in the back. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There will be one adjustment to the agenda, which is that after the superintendent presents the proposed school budget with the school board, we will look at the sample disbursement warrant that you provided to us for approving disbursements to the school after July 1st. So that didn't make it on the agenda before we sent it out, but we'll do that while you're here. Does anybody have a conflict of interest? None. Minutes of the last 2 meetings, did people have a chance to review those? Any changes other than what's been sent to Aaron? No. Somebody want to make a motion?
Will we approve the minutes?
Second.
All in favor? That's 5. Aaron, are you keeping track of that or do you need me to tell you who made motions and whatnot?
I got it that time. If there's a split vote or something, I might need
Okay,
that clear.
all right. Thank you. Brandon, have you received any communications from members of the public that we need to share?
Nope.
All right. Anybody else have anything? I don't think so. All right. Irene circulated the warrant for disbursements to the town late this afternoon. Did people have a chance to look at that?
I didn't.
I didn't look at it though, just now. More money for salt, shocking. Let's see, I did have one question. Striker sales, is that a vehicle repair or something? Do you know? That's 21,000 in EMI.
I decided it's EMS.
I just know it's in the EMS section. I was just looking at it.
I'm not sure. I can check and send it. Follow. Yeah.
Okay. Did anybody else have any questions?
No.
All right, then, do we have a consensus that we will authorize the disbursement of $173,810.82?
Yes.
Yes,
Only money. Yes.
low this time. All
Yeah.
right, thank you. And I will sign this and send it down.
The striker sales was medical equipment. The expensive one, the $21,000 piece of equipment is for a Lucas device, which is like a CPR device.
So then,
Typically, we've had to have self-Thomaston's support when CPR is needed in the back of an ambulance, and now we'll be able to do that ourselves.
We purchased our own.
Mhm.
yeah, so Katie spoke at the emergency services meeting about how, especially in small towns like ours, having this mechanical means of doing the keeping the pressure going to resuscitate people is better, because then people can be doing other things like driving the ambulance.
We may not always have, 3 people in a truck, and so this allows that to keep going.
Could be a lifesaver.
Right,
That's the hope.
Yeah.
right. Okay, well, our first item on the agenda is to hear from Ben Martins and Jerry Cushman, and they're not here yet. So we will proceed to, I hope they don't think the meetings still start at 7 o'clock. I think we told them that it starts at 6, but we'll go ahead with the school budget if you're willing, Christina. She's hoping to share her screen.
You know why we moved it to 6 o'clock? It was because people were sort of nodding off.
It's like, is that one of the gentlemen you're waiting for? And that's right here.
Yeah.
So I'm past, and Brandon,
You want to share your screen?
yes, I would love to, or.
Join the meeting, then I can have you do it that way.
Gotcha.
So.
And what's the easiest way to do that?
There's a meeting ID up here that's probably tough to read. And then that's it. You're gonna put this one in. Past tense.
And then don't my, well, audio on and everything.
Stay muted, but you'll want your video on. And then I'll make you a co-host so that you can share.
Thank you for everyone's patience. All right, and where do you stop? We have a few extras in front of the meeting audiences. And I just want to point out, so I'm Christina Watton, the superintendent of St. George, new this year. I know we've all met. I don't know if I've met everybody in the audience here. But we have had a series of budget work happening. We've had 3 budget workshops the last 3 weeks in March. And we have prepared a budget that we are going to bring to our school board on Wednesday night for them to vote. So I wanted to share that with you all here for your feedback. I think you will be pleasantly surprised with the budget. Some of you have been at our meetings, so you know what is coming. I would just like to introduce Candace Abraziz, our business manager. Sure. And I have Jennifer Garrett and Kristen Falla, our school board chair and our finance chair here tonight as well, that they can also help answer any questions. But Candy and I have been working on this budget since I started July 1, really. You jump in and budgeting is year round. And we've really tried to focus on taxpayers. We've heard from a lot of the community this year on the need to, we know St. George is is wonderful for taxes compared to other areas. But we also heard loud and clear the need for the school to have a responsible budget. So we did hear that. I want to just state that as we get started. So I'm going to go through some slides. Some of this will be a repeat for those of you who have been at our budget workshops. If you want to see the full presentations, you can go on our website. And I have shared the presentations from the other workshops as well as minutes. Hello, out to fine. So if you want to see the full presentations, hello, you can go on the website, check that out. But I did want to just point out, to be able to see here. So St. George is a community school that is in our mission and our motto, and we want the community to have a presence at our school. Our mission is to do whatever it takes so that every student thrives and contributes to the vitality and resiliency of the town of St. George. And I think that's something that you don't see in a lot of school districts' missions. It's not really about the community. It's just focused on the school itself. St. George really embraces that. And I think I just see that growing and our relationship between the board and the select board growing. We focus on academic growth, character development, health and wellness, and recognize that our students, it's not just physical health, it's also their mental health, social emotional well-being, and food security. And that's needed for their academics to be successful as well. And the third aspect that we really try to focus on is engagement. And we believe that for the student to thrive, they need to find meaning in their education and they need to have ways that positively impact their community. So through efforts such as the Grace Innovation Center, I've seen this year many outreach to the community. We have community members coming in regularly, working with our students during the school day, after school, and then the students are now starting to give back. For example, the first graders made buddy benches that I know they met with our town manager and had approval. They had their designs drafted in a first grade form. And from there, we now have these beautiful benches that will be shared in the community soon. So there are kind of four aspects that our school and our budget is based around. One is excellence. So we have that clear mission that whatever it takes for every student, the community, engagement, and then the last part that we added this year, sustainability. There's a lot of great things happening, and we want to find a way to make a long range plan so that we can keep it sustainable and also not just keep asking for more and more from our taxpayers. So for the FY27 budget, we're focused on mission, protecting what works, and planning for what's coming next. And so this is from our Lobster feed this year, one of our students. And we just really wanted to emphasize that through this budget development process, we're going to allocate resources that improve our students' education, experience, and outcomes. That increases the district's financial sustainability and resilience and contributes to the vitality of St. George. So I've said that now in 4 slides, just so you know, community is very important for the school district. So for revenues, I'm sorry, I have to hold my computer because this is just very small for me to read. This is our revenue sheet, which is your top page. And I'm going to just bring you to the number that you're all wondering about. And just from last week, Candy met with the Department of Education and found a creative way to reduce the budget even farther. So right now with what I'm about to present you, it is an increase of less than 1% to our local taxpayers. It is an increase of our overall budget of 2%, 2.02 from last year's budget to this year's budget, but because of how we're able to use some federal funds and offset some of the cost to local taxpayers, that cost to the locally raised amount is under 1% right now. It's 0.11. So we're very happy about that. And we hope you are too. This includes setting aside $575,000 for the fund balance to offset expenditures. So we have a fund balance, and that is basically money that has been carried over throughout the years of what is left over at the end of it. And so that is in an account. I will say we're not dumping all of the money in because every dollar that we put kind of digs a hole, if you imagine. And so next year we have to fill that hole. So fund balance is great, but right now we are still working off of only having through 2023 audited. So it is a little risky to go any deeper than we're going now.
Once again, what is your fund balance or surplus?
Yes, we have, hold on, it's just in a couple more slides here. Yeah. Right now we have $973,000 in unassigned fund balance. However, it's unaudited and that has been allocated. I'll show you it in 2 more slides.
I mean, is the general idea that that's a cushion in case you need something?
It is a cushion for some areas if you need something. However, it's not meant to be that way. The law states we can have up to 9% of our total budget in fund balance. We did have over that, but we're just a little cautious because we don't have the audits done for the last 2 years. So we're using a large amount of that, as well as last year they used a large chunk of that. I'll talk about in just a minute. But that's as deep as we really dare to go without having the audits complete. This year, we're lucky. We have an increase of almost $100,000 in our state subsidy. So we're going to get $797,700 from the state to fund what they feel is adequate for our education system. This is an increase of $185,000 in the special education. And our pre-K cost, so you hear about early childhood all over, and that's one of the amazing things that's going so well at the school. But the state, because we are an early adopter of this, is paying for all of it. So $428,000 that's not going to the local taxpayers because the state is paying. And I know we're being recorded, and I know it's all of our money, that all of these tax dollars, state, federal, it's all of our money that they're taking away to give back, but it's not coming directly in addition to that to the local taxpayers. So our total expenditures for the FY27 budget is $8,247,983, which is $163,000 more than last year's budget, or 2.02%. But our local assessment, what we're going to ask of the taxpayers, is $6,815,283, or just $7,509 more than last year's request, which is 0.11%. The next page on your handout is our expenditures, and I just want to kind of walk through. I'll just walk through this when you tell me. Who just calls me or stop. So I just would like to walk through each article and let you know why there's a change. So in Article 1, there's a $299,641 change, or 8.2%. And that's an increase of teacher salaries and benefits. And then also high school tuition. So we tuition out our students to all of the high schools. We have around 90 students that we're paying for, and the state sets a rate. We don't get that rate until
just end of December,
the
year that we're in. So
Not very.
So it's not like this is
Yeah.
next year's funds. We know this year how much we're having to pay.
so we take this year and we have to put an increase of that.
So it's
Yes,
a projection?
It's a projection.
Yeah.
So that's increasing by $132,000 though. And that's just standard kind of across. We don't really have any control over that. Article 2, special education. We're probably one of the only districts where this cost is going down, and significantly down. So our Article 2 is down $242,969, or 14%. And the reasoning of this is we've reduced our amount of special education teachers. In FY25, we had 8.8 special education teachers. And for FY27, we're down to 4.5 special education teachers. We're reducing our special education numbers because of the programming that's happening at the school and the great work that our teachers are doing. And so that reduced the teacher salary line significantly.
Is that totally due to improvements in helping kids mainstream into the?
I wouldn't say totally. I would say there a large amount of it is due to programming, but students move and students change. So numbers of some kids could have moved away and
Some of it's arbitrary.
yeah. But the majority of it, I would say, is because of the programs that have been brought to our school and the teaching that's happening. In addition to the teacher decrease, we also moved a half of our social work position. So this isn't a reduction in force. This is just moving it from one article, moving it from Article 2 to Article 5. It was just based on the work that the social worker was doing. It didn't belong in the special education budget. Half of her role was working with general ed students. So we just moved that. So it's not a reduction in the overall budget, that amount, but it's a reduction from this article. We do have a reduction of $127,000 in OT and speech for this coming school year. Part of that was a transition last year, but it was budgeted for a full-time speech person. Because of the needs of our students, we did not need a full-time speech person, so started the year and had some cost savings there. And for next year, our occupational therapy caseload is around 10 students. And we have a full-time OT. So typically a half-time OT is on a caseload of 25. So we felt we could reduce that amount. So that reduced our budget by $127,000. And then I just added in there that pre-K pilot cohort funding, which is $428,000 they're paying for our students who have special needs in the early childhood programs. So putting a large amount of money on the early childhood, focusing on early interventions. And then for the high school tuition for special education, we were actually able to reduce this line. And this is through what I mentioned earlier, that Candy met with the Department of Education, and they came up with a strategy for using our federal funds that will help our budget and help our taxpayers specifically, because we were able to reduce the amount that is going to that local number by some of the revenues that we have coming in. And so we were able to reduce that by overall 242,000, which is pretty unheard of. I don't know any other districts that are reducing special education costs at this time. The next article, and feel free to stop me if you have questions along the way. Article 3 is our CTE instruction. So students that we're sending over to Midcoast School of Technology. So it's just based on student count. We don't have any control over that other than signups, and it was just, I didn't even put on there it was $3,000 more this year, or $39.90. In Article 4, which is our extracurricular activities, that actually went down 1.88%. That's our school sports teams, and anything happening in that realm of extracurricular activities. Article 5 of student and staff support, that is up $180,000, $180,290, so 35%. And this is that, remember when I just said we were just moving a half of a social worker into another article? So that is from half of that social worker just jumping over here from special ed. And then in addition, technology has quite a few increases, including devices for staff and students, ones that are no longer being serviced or no longer capable of servicing because of the number of years. And they're not under warranty anymore. Thank you. Our gym audio equipment, we are looking for an upgrade. I don't know if any of you were at the basketball game on Friday night, but that was a lot of fun. But the sound system, it was just a great example of us needing a new one. I think they had said they had never upgraded a sound system in the school. So it very much is in need of an upgrade for all of the events that are happening at the school. The network needs to be upgraded. It's been over 6 years since we've had any type of upgrade to our network, and for security purposes, we need to do an upgrade to the network. And then we are also purchasing some safety software that will help us in the event of either a lockdown, fire drill, if we had to leave the school, to keep track of our students very quickly. And it also accounts for people who are coming in and out of our building. So we're building in some safety software, and that came from our safety school team. We met with some local police officers this year, as well as somebody from the Maine Safety Center, and discussed ways that we could improve safety at the school. And then finally, in Article 5, the other increase is for tuition reimbursement. So it's part of our teacher and support staff contract that we pay for college classes for tuition to help both improve skills and also keep up with certification. So we do have more teachers taking classes, so it's a good thing for our students, but it does cost a little more money in Article 5. And then when we jump down to Article 6, we do have a $63,000 increase, or 12%. And I just would like to point out a chunk of this is for legal fees. We've had to use lawyers a bunch this school year. We do have additional money in there because we are hoping to have an auditor and put out an RFP with the town to have a new auditor. And we wanted to make sure we have money in the banks to pay for said auditor. Yes, sir.
Just curious what you had to use for legal fees. What was that?
Oh,
What that involved?
that many things. So it started off the year with the financial situations with the town and the school, figuring out the methods that I think you're going to talk a little bit about the warrant tonight. So that was a little dabble in there, but a large amount of it has been for personnel issues at the school, bullying investigations, several bullying investigations, and I would say that that's been the largest amount of funds.
Hopefully that resolved okay with the bullying. That's
Yeah,
a serious
we're
thing.
still working through some things, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have added benefits for our CTE Makerspace director. So we pay for half of a 2-day salary. And last year, their benefits were covered elsewhere. So this year we are adding that to our budget, and then also just salary and health insurance increases for all of the staff in that article. In articles,
Before you move
Yes,
on to Article
yes.
7, and just so people understand, the select board doesn't have a role with respect to the school's budget, which is proposed by the school board to the community. So this is, very considerate of you to come and share your budget with us. My question is, as just a regular voter in town, not in my role hat as a select board member, but I just want the community to understand how the Grace Innovation Center's budgeting and staffing and the schools interface, because I know it's kind of a hybrid operation.
And actually also Mr. Felton and Kristen, and I think the Grace Board is working on maybe a 1-pager that we could share with the community that would explain that. But currently the school, we use the Grace every single day. Our students are over there, all of our teachers are going over there. We currently have a 2-day-a-week director. We have a full-time coordinator, thank you. I know I was gonna get that wrong. She knew it too. And he is paid for half. I'll let Candy.
Well, so funds raised for the CTE, so there's still money from local donations and everything else. And so it's been budgeted that half of the coordinator's salary and benefits is paid from already raised money, and then the other half is from our budget here. And same with the director. So the director's benefits in this current year was paid for by already donated funds, but next year, through the grant.
last year.
Yeah, through the grant. And so this year, it's coming up, that that's been used for that, so that's why it's been added in.
And then we have another amazing human who works out there full time, but also is a tech director full time. So he's just magically doing 2 full-time jobs. But he's out there, but that's in our school budget. And then our teachers are out there working as well. Is that answered?
Yeah.
Your
I just wanted people to understand, because I know it's it's new. This is the first year
Yeah.
and it's helpful to have you explain things.
Thursday night.
Here, people who've been here a long time will remember, it's very much like the original Grace Institute. I taught at it, I was like any other teacher when it was at 50, except my money was from Grace Institute reimbursed the school system. So no one who looked at me, just like Mr. Felton or anyone else there, thought I was anything different because the money was reimbursed by the private fund. And so that's what the CTE and the grants and all that reimburse that. It's very much a similar foundation.
Any other questions on the stats? Okay. Article 7 is a 4% increase, but that's just from salary and benefits, an increase of $8,592. Transportation is an increase of $80,465 or 22%. And this includes our drivers and health insurance increases. And then we do have some repair and maintenance line increases. Our fuel projections, we wanted to increase that, knowing that that is probably going to keep going up. And then we do have some money in the budget for a new van. We received $45,000 in a grant, and so we needed a little more to purchase a van for our pre-K students. So there's $20,000 added in there to help with that $45,000 grant to purchase a van. And then we also added money for some homeless transportation for students who are finding themselves unhoused and need transportation to and from school. It's a Maine state and a federal law, the McKinney-Vento Act, that students who are in the middle of the school year, if they become unhoused, and for example, a student becomes unhoused and ends up on a couch in Waldoboro. When it's in traveling distance, we are required by law to remove barriers for that student to come to and from school. So we typically, what is provided is transportation to and from school. We've been sharing transportation in RSU 13, so we would drive one direction and they would drive the other, so it's a wash. In the event that one of the districts had to drive both, they would then bill the other district for half of it. It's a 50-50 split across the state for any student to experience this, so we didn't need to build some money because we have had some students experiencing this school year. Much lower than, I mean, when I was in RSU 40 in Augusta, we had over 90 students. And so it's a much smaller population, but I did want you to know it is still a thing here, even in St. George. Article 9 is facilities, which has a major decrease of $146,955 or 19%. This is because we completed some big projects last year. We have the new paving project, so the school has been paved. That was a $210,000 project last budget that is not in this year's budget. We have had a partial completion of the HVAC project, and that will be completed this summer. We were able to decrease our propane and electricity costs for next year because of the HVAC project that is being completed. And we just closed on Friday 3 RFPs. One is for a facilities and maintenance project that will be replacing middle school and cafeteria windows, which is desperately needed, as some of us know and may have almost fallen out of them this year. But they are very old and unsafe. So this is something that we're having happen this summer, as well as some maintenance projects. So removing some siding outside of the gym that is rotted, performing an acid wash and repointing of the brickwork, painting trim, and on the back side of the school, replacing some trim. And then near our kitchen, replacement of the back kitchen door with a new steel frame door and a complete redo of the boiler room. So we just got RFPs in and met about that process this morning. So that will be completed as part of this. And that is still with the $146,000 reduction in the budget. Debt service is a reduction of $3,171. That's just by fate of our MCST loan decreasing as we get on that. I believe we said we were on year 12, or there's 12 years left. 12 years left. 12 years left on the MCST building. So we're 8 years in. So that should decrease a little bit each year. And then this also includes our HVAC bond payment, which is a 0% interest loan. Article 16, this is a fun one, a decrease of $79,000. And I have a slide about this actually. But food service, we have been getting all of our breakfast and lunch paid for by the state. So we're getting money in for that. And then we've been budgeting the taxpayers because we didn't know if that would be going away. We've been told that's not going away next year. So we don't need to ask the taxpayers for those funds because we're getting the funds from the state. And then finally, Article 19 is it's like, do I have that correct? Yep, $29. I was like, it's $29, it's $29 decrease. So noteworthy.
No, in,
Oh, increase?
Yeah.
Oh, I had it in red. Okay. Increase, $29 increase. I'm sorry about that. So bringing us back to the fund balance. So Steve, you asked about this. So this year we're proposing to use $575,000. Last year, bit off a big chunk using $560,000. And then the year previous to that, $300,000. We're also advocating to put another 75,000 into reserves, which I'm going to talk about all of our reserves in just a moment. But currently, as of the FY25, because we're not through this school year yet, so we don't know how much money we're going to spend. We have $973,000 in our fund balance.
just to understand, the 575 would be we'd be coming out of the 973 for 2 years.
And the 75.
And the 75, you gotta think the 2 year, yeah. So really using whatever we had left over in 25 for the 2 years out for 27, so like in 26 we'd use for 20. Because we don't know what 26 fund balance is gonna be. Because we're not done spending.
And is your next slide gonna be telling us where the difference between the 973 and the 575 is going, or did you just allocate that to different?
It's
The rest will
remains,
stay
it
in,
will remain in the
Yeah.
undesignated fund balance.
Right, the
correct.
575 is gonna remain.
the 575 is going in to reduce taxes.
We're spending
Yeah.
it to reduce. the
We're
tax.
taking 575 out of the
Okay.
973 to reduce taxes. And then
And
we're putting
75
75 in a savings account. And the rest will sit there until the audit's done and then dispersed safely. So currently we have a healthy fund balance. This is what districts strive to have. They want to have some money in the bank. So when things come up, they also strive to have reserves, which we do have very healthy reserves. And that was another reason that Candy and I felt like we could reduce our budget this year was because of this. So we currently have 327,000. Just gonna start with the first three numbers. In our minor capital, so we could use that in anywhere in Article 9. So say these facilities projects this summer, they find some massive horrible thing that needs $100,000 more work and we don't have it, but we need it for school to open. We could go to the school board and ask them to use these reserves. So it creates a savings account that is attached to the article, so you cannot use it for any other article, and the board does have to approve using these funds.
Which we did use this year. It was really helpful. So we found ourselves with kind of a bus crisis.
Yes.
And we needed to purchase a bus and we didn't have it in our budget, but we had the money in the reserves. And then we also got a golden opportunity for a used bus from Midco School of Technology. So we were able to purchase them both out of the transportation reserve and not have any sort of negative impact on the budget. But we wanted to put some money back in, but our projection on our bus purchases in the near future is not necessarily as high, so it does not need to be replenished by as
dollars to
significantly as we did draw on it this year for getting buses.
And that saved the district and the town money and interest, having those reserves. We didn't have to take out a loan and have interest, pay interest. And we were just really lucky that for the first 5 months, RSU 40 bailed us out and lent us a bus.
borrow us.
Yeah, so if you saw an RSU 40 bus around town, that's because they lent us a bus. So we're very thankful to them. In regular instruction, so Article 1, we have $159,000 in reserves. Special education, we have $256,000 in reserves. And then transportation, by adding the 75,000, we'll be at 94,000. and food service. So remember, I reduced the entire town budget because we have $84,000 in reserves and we're still getting money from the state. So like, we probably won't have to use a food service reserve, which is fine. Things could change at any time with the state funding that program, but for now, for next year, we feel very, very confident that we do not need that money in the town budget.
To clarify for those that don't have children in the school,
Yes.
the state reimburses for all breakfast and lunch meals for, pre-K through 8 students at the school, so all kids eat for free. It's free.
The only students they don't pay for are 3-year-olds who don't have special needs. So we do have that built into the budget to pay for, so they will have food as well.
It's interesting to think about that because if you don't eat, you can't learn. You need.
Very true, Steve, very
Sort of
true.
basic.
Yeah.
You have a lot of students that are needy for food.
Yes, and we do also Stephanie Simmons works with the CDC and sends home bags of food on the weekend for many families as well. So food is definitely something that is definitely necessary and needed, and it's really nice knowing that every kid can get breakfast and lunch, and we always have snacks at the school for them. And it's really nice to know that the state is reimbursing us for every single meal that they get, because I know that's often been, you know, in my lifetime of school budgets, it's like, oh, $100,000 for the school, for the food service every year. It's always, you know, obviously everyone wants to help feed the kids, but it is nice having the state fund that and reimburse us for those. And finally, I just wanted to really emphasize why we're having some reductions. So that special education costs, our numbers are going down. The facilities paving project and the food service. So that's for this coming school year. We really tried to look at what do we need, and what can we go without. And this is for the FY 27, but it could change for FY 28. So we're really happy to bring in this low budget. We also wanted to say this might not be like, we don't know what will be happening. I did want to point out our enrollment. So there's been many articles, newspaper reporters have reached out to me multiple times this year about the decline in enrollment that we're seeing in the mid-coast, and we do not have that problem here. So this chart shows going back to 2015-16 is the chart right over here. And we were at 289 students, and that includes our high school. And this year we're at 301 students. So
Wow.
we have not had a decline. We're keeping steady enrollment, and the green down at the bottom is the addition of our pre-K program. So we have really strong
I'm
enrollment.
sorry, what is the green again?
Pre-K.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Three
three
and
and 4.
Yeah. We're reaching out to the younger and younger
Yes.
kids, right? From
Yeah,
birth.
from
to-
birth. Yeah, so
It's really
they're-
important.
Yep, and pulling families in and getting them connected, and they've got groups going on in the school of parents meeting during the school day with the little babies there, and it's just a great thing.
A lot of what Jessica Berry is
Yes.
doing.
Yes, sir. Yeah, she's doing a great job. So upcoming dates. So tonight's the night we're here. Wednesday night, the school board will vote on our proposed budget. April 29th, we'll have our district budget meeting at 6 o'clock, and then June 9th is our town election vote. And I will share this slideshow with all of you and anybody who'd like to see it as well. And this is just the outline of the budget approval process for municipal school units. That talks a little bit about it and a little bit about what would happen if the budget failed, but that's not gonna happen, so. But open it up for questions, and any questions.
Do people have any other questions for the superintendent? Yeah,
I just want to make a comment. I usually sit through budgets and I want to shoot myself back right here. And hearing yours was a breath of fresh air. You've done a great job and I want to commend you guys and what a great job you've done. Seriously, that was a great budget to hear.
Thank you.
And I can't wait for my property taxes to go down because of these budgets.
They're not promising them going down.
But I-
Going up very much.
Well, I wouldn't say, like, yeah, I will plant one seed. I was like, do I plant the seed or not? If we have not found out our health insurance rates yet, so there is potential that it could adjust slightly up or could potentially go down. So we could We could maybe see a decrease.
I think we know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
because last year
Last year was
it
real
went
low.
down
Yeah.
between your projections and,
We had to
June.
readjust at the budget meeting.
Yeah.
This,
That's
Candace's done a great job to project and I think have us land in a place that will be pretty positive when we get those in.
is- when we find out this possibility, we do the same thing again.
And
Awesome.
I will just shout out Candy, I'm gonna do this on Wednesday night too, but we just had our special education audit. So the Maine Department of Education comes in and goes through all your stuff and says, I need this, this, and this, and because of Candy's diligence and eagle eyes on everything, it was 100% pass. There's a couple policies we need to add, but all of the financial pieces were 100%, and they were very impressed. And just, she has attention to detail like no other. And this is our first year working together, but I see it just strengthening as time passes.
Well, thank you. While you're here, I do
Yeah.
want us to talk about the proposed warrant
Sure.
format, which was sent to the select board. And so that people who are present or watching this understand. And as Christina pointed out, the town and the school board had some legal fees about this last spring, early summer, because it was then that it became clear to us that because the town collects all of the property taxes for the school, for the town, and for the county, even though the select board has no say over how much the school decides to raise or spend, we've collected that in the town bank account. And just like earlier, we voted on the town's disbursements that include $12 for batteries that we approved. The school board, after they approved disbursements from their budget, consistent with what the taxpayers authorized to be raised to be spent on the school, the select board has to also say, yes, send a check to the school as requested by the school board and the superintendent. We had not been doing it this way. None of us realized we were supposed to be doing it this way. But now that we know, we're planning, and the superintendent and the town manager and their finance women have been coordinating how this will work so that starting July 1st, we will be doing it the way we're supposed to do it. And so we were provided with a sample disbursement warrant for the school. And did any select board members have any questions or concerns about the proposed warrant format? No, I mean, it really looks exactly like we do for the town, and it will have been approved by your board. And this is just like a double check to make sure that that the community's tax dollars are being spent in the way that we're approving their expenditure on what you wanted it spent on. Not like anybody was misspending money before, but this is just a procedural change.
I would say that the biggest difference is that there are specific laws in place for municipal school units that are different from RSUs or
Right.
SADs. And so historically, what we've done is cut a check to the school for 1/12 of their budget every month. And we did it because it was practical and it was easier for both parties. It's unfortunately just not legal for an MSU. And so now the check.
Years.
Right. And so now the checks will just reflect the actual expenses that have been incurred. So,
But this is also part of why you had $975,000 in your fund balance too, right? And that you can.
All these.
Right, that it's built up that way, and you can ask the community for less money by 500,000 or whatever this year, because it turned out you'd asked for more than you really needed, and that's less likely maybe to be the case
I don't know that that's, I don't think that's,
Contingencies, like, we're
right.
still going ahead.
right, and so when contingencies aren't needed, they will still be in the school.
In the school, right,
Yeah, which will be a separate fund that the,
Yeah.
you know, town holds, so.
Right.
I don't think it will change that piece really at all.
No, and it still will be up to the taxpayers on what we spend the funds on.
right. So, do people have any other questions?
But comment.
Yeah,
I just want to say, I think we have one of the best little schools in the whole state of Maine and an incredible staff and administration, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all for your time and just support, and my door is always open, so anybody reach out anytime, or email box if that's the newer term. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
And I'll give a little plug, if you're free on Thursday evening, Tammy and I have been working on the Grace Innovation Center. If you'd like to hear Historical Society presentation, there'll be one at the Grace Innovation Center on Thursday where you can see projects that people have made. What was the oldest one, Tammy, 1953? 54. 54? That'll be the evening.
Okay, thank you. So then, the next item on the agenda will be hearing from Ben and Jerry. Ha, did you bring ice cream? About the plans for the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association.
I'm gonna hop onto the Zoom.
Okay,
If you join the meeting,
How do I join the meeting? I don't have the link.
so if you open Zoom.
Yeah.
And click join a meeting.
Yeah.
There's a meeting ID up here. You'll have to come closer, I guess.
My.
Put this meeting ID in.
Well, while Ben's doing that, I'm just gonna echo the sentiment, and I think it's beyond the state. I think we're one of the best schools in the country.
Agreed.
And your passcode down here. Pass.
All right, so you have to make me a, perfect.
You're off to a good start, man.
Listen, the less I talk, the better. Just gonna let you talk, Jerry. Perfect. So, thank you all for inviting us here tonight. My name is Ben Martens. I'm the executive director of the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association. We are a nonprofit that works with community-based fishermen throughout the coast of Maine. We were started here in Port Clyde, but since our founding about 20 years ago, we've spread to now work with fishermen up and down the coast of Maine. We work to build sustainable fisheries and vibrant fishing communities. And while a lot of our policy and other focus of work is on the fisheries that are not lobster, like groundfish and scallop, a big part of our community-based work touches all the fishermen of Maine. And so I'll touch on that briefly. But while we were rooted here in Maine, in Port Clyde, right, in this community, we have our main office down in Brunswick. We had an amazing opportunity recently where we received the donation of the Wildcat pound and building just down the street. And so I'm here to talk to you guys a little bit about this opportunity that we have after receiving this donation. Share a little bit about the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association as we're going to be stepping into this community in a little bit more purposeful way moving forward. And then hopefully solicit some ideas from you guys and anybody else in the office that might have ideas about what we want to do with this space. So as a brief overview of the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association, we were started by community-based fishermen to build a voice to bring fishermen together, basically to say we want to have fishermen in Maine. We need to have a voice bringing those small businesses out into the world. But since that move really focused on policy, what we decided to do is say, like, you can't just go and solve a policy initiative. You actually have to solve the other parts of the fishing business, fishing community, fishermen's lives to actually have a real impact. So now our organization looks like a circle with the fishermen, the fishing family in the center. So we still have our work that we do in sustainable fisheries. But we say if you want to have enough fishermen on the shore, you need to have enough fish in the ocean to support those fishermen. So we do a lot of different work where we're fighting for sustainable fisheries through policy and regulation. Karen Cushman was just brought down to DC with us along with her son. We had him play hooky from school for a little while to come and walk the hills of DC to talk about what it means to be a fisherman in Maine, which was very cool. We also do different research projects out in the Gulf of Maine with community-based fishermen throughout the state. We have community access, so permits. If you want to be a fisherman, you have to have a permit. We have a permit bank where we own groundfish permits, we own scallop permits, and we help fishermen get access to those things. And then working waterfront, if you want to go fishing, you better have a place to go fishing from. If you want to go get those fish that we are trying to protect out in the ocean. The other piece of that is business stability. While a lot of fishermen do catch lobster, there are other fish in the sea, and we are trying to make sure that there are those opportunities for fishermen to go catch lobster, scallop, groundfish, halibut, anything else that might be in the ocean. We do a lot of work on the groundfish fishery in particular. We have an entire program called Fishermen Feeding Mainers, where we go and we raise funds. We buy fish when the markets tank. We donate those fish into food insecure communities and schools. And your district has taken advantage of that opportunity to get free fish from the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association. We work with school districts to then learn how to cook those fish, serve them to those kids. We also have the whole other program where we're building value-added products to get into our schools so that schools can buy those things. We went and fought to increase the local food fund so that now schools can buy local seafood and get that into our local school districts as well. We just launched a fish cake made with local fresh flounder, which is amazing, really cool thing the schools are able to take advantage of. And then the final piece is fisherman wellness. So you can have all the fish in the ocean, you can have all the access that you want, you can have all the markets to sell things into. If you don't have healthy people, we got nothing, right? At the core of what we are fishermen, and we're fighting for those people, those places, those communities. And so we are trying to surround the fishermen, those families, with everything that they need to be successful for this generation and the next. So I give you all of that in context for this super cool opportunity where we received the donation of this pound this past fall. You guys are all your locals to the community. I've been giving this presentation to others who are not as familiar with this unique piece of property, right? But there's a lobster pound. It is broken. There's working waterfront. It is also broken. There's a building that is brand new. And there's also this pile of granite and the road. So that is the property. The lobster pound has obviously been used as a lobster pound previously. It's not been used for anything in quite some time. There are significant repairs that need to be made to the dock and the pound for that to be used. Thank you all for coming together in such short notice and writing a letter of support. Maine Coast Fishermen's Association did bring a request to Senator Susan Collins to submit a community development project to fund the rebuilding of this pound as an anchor point for what we want to do in this property. And then we've got the structure. So while the pound is broken down, the docks are broken down, the building is brand new and beautiful. And it is obviously resilient. It was there when we had those storms a couple of years ago in January. It did not receive any damage. And the inside is empty. So we have a blank slate to work from when we talk about what we want to think about within this space. So it's 3,700 square feet. There's no electrical, there's no plumbing, but it is the hookups go right to the space. So there's already a septic in place. There's a well that's already been drilled there, and the electrical box goes to the building itself. It just is not done. So it's great for us right now because the carrying costs are low and I don't have to worry about pipes freezing. But it does mean that we are going to have to think creatively about how we want to invest in this building before we want to do anything in that space. So What I am here to solicit some feedback from you guys for is one, I just want to introduce myself and make sure that you know that Maine Coast Fishermen's Association is more than just Jerry Cushman. And while Jerry is one of our more charismatic founders, we have many board members within this community and throughout the state of Maine. We really appreciate this community. We love Fort Clyde, we love St. George, but we work with fishermen throughout the coast. So anything that we do in this space, it can't just be about St. George. It has to be about what we are trying to do to lift up the fishing community of Maine, or the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association. And then, it's how do we think about where we want to be going? If we are saying we want to be making investments in a property, in this building, in this space, if time is an arrow and we are shooting an arrow to meet that future, right? What are things going to look like in 5 years and 10 years? What are the investments that we can make today to try and meet that challenge of tomorrow? And that's the opportunity that we see in this building. So we are trying to solicit great, amazing ideas for what we can do in this space. We want to understand from your strategic planning processes, your comprehensive plans, resilience plans, all the things. What are the needs of this community at large? How are the things that you see in your microcosm? How do they look in the bigger picture of what we are experiencing across the state? And then finally, I just want to put this on the table is while we have received this as a donation, one of the things I made my board promise me was that if we go through the strategic planning process, if at the end of that process, it is not our project, we might sell this, right? We might find a new home for this. And if that is an aquaculture business or if it is another nonprofit, it will continue to be working waterfront. It will be a win for this community, but ultimately we plan to keep this. But if we go through a very comprehensive process and listen to everybody and they say, this is what this greatest and best use is, and that is not the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association with the fishermen as our North Star of what we do as a mission as a nonprofit, then we can't do that, right? And we'll figure out a pathway towards something better for this building.
All right, so that, I'm gonna step in right there because I saw everybody's head turn and I already know what this town is about rumors. I want to make sure that everybody knows that this board is 100% dedicated not to selling it. But Ben is right, if it comes down to that, we are a long ways from that right now. We are
Absolutely.
dedicated to using this in some form of helping fishermen. So I just don't want to be down in any store at the halls here. Oh, they just got it to sell it. That's not the case. We are working hard, figure out what is the best plan. We have a zillion tons of plans in front of us right now. But not one of them is really connected, but not to say that it could be tweaked a little bit to make it connect.
Right.
So I just don't want the rumors to go around St. George tomorrow that we've got it to. Especially for David Emery sitting here with that association down. We were all for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David already offered to buy it from me, so we're fine. All right.
He doesn't live quite in a small town like we do.
No, I live in Brunswick, not a small town. I think the biggest town in Maine. But I say that though because we are dedicated to making sure that this building does good. Right. It is not about us profiting. It is not. So the point is we are going to try and find the greatest good for this building. And so that is how we are trying to build this. Is we see a ton of amazing opportunities here. We want to come in and we want to fight for this opportunity here for the community of St. George, but also for the fishermen of Maine. And so I'm happy to answer questions, but I am much more interested in collecting feedback from you guys in terms of places, things, opportunities that you see when it comes to what you're hearing from your community, what your comprehensive plan has said, all those other pieces that we need to be considering as we are looking at this building and the pound and the working waterfront just downstream from us.
Well, some of us sent very long answers to your survey.
You sure did. So I will start with saying, if you're not a public speaker and you want to give us feedback on our website, mainecoastfisherman.org, there is a survey and we are soliciting feedback. You're welcome to do so. Some of you have. Super appreciative. Thank you very much. We are collecting all that information. So,
What is your time frame? I mean, I assume it's not pinned down too tightly, given what you've said.
Yeah.
But your process for evaluating all these different possibilities and making a judgment about the.
Yeah, so what we're doing is we were trying to take this year to go out and figure out what we want to start doing with it. And so we are still in that first stage of getting out to the community, soliciting ideas. As we are going through that process, though, like we are finding a lot of similar ideas are bubbling. So I don't believe in filling a space just because you have a space. And so if we start to see consensus building around a handful of ideas, what we're going to start doing is chasing those, running those to ground, and figuring out what those do. So we set an ideal of like we want to have this idea set and like figured out over the next year. But already we're seeing through my work with outreach that like there's certain things that are bubbling over and over again that we're hearing. And so we are not going to just do a full year because that's what the board said I could take. Instead, we're going to say, cool, we got an idea. If the best idea that we hear comes up, we're just going to grab it and run. And so that's how we tend to work is we like to put a lot of irons in the fire and work on a number of things at the same time, and we'll chase those things down. So we have some time and we're still soliciting things, but at some point, over the next few months, if we don't start to hear that there's a lot more need for outreach, we'll start to ramp that down as well.
Jerry?
You mentioned time, and I just want to say this, like a lot of conversations too around permits, right? Dan Trishman was on the resilience team for the governor, and they came out and they found out that permits just take way too long. The DEP takes way too long. So pre-COVID, shit went fast, excuse my language, and things happened quickly and probably needed to be, right, after the January storm. But now we fall right back in the same old program. I know 2 projects right now. I'm waiting to build docks and I'm waiting for the DEP, and I've been over a year and a half waiting. This is what takes way too long. The permitting process takes way too long. This place was permitted for many different projects during it, and we're worried about the permitting process running out. Much like the general store in Port Clyde. Everybody's in scramble to do things so fast, but not doing correctly, just because of the permitting process, if that makes sense. So I think it has a lot to deal with the town. If they're willing to bend here and there to see that, unfortunately, this guy passed on at a time when his wife didn't know what to do with it, it's passed on to us. This permitting process should be extended from the time that we took this project over. Much like the general store, and that's, I mean, seriously, like, it's a big problem. Like, we don't want to start the whole process over. 1, it's financially a burden. 2, the time.
Well, and obviously there are state laws about some of the, when permits lapse. And then there are local ordinances, which are laws, passed by St. George voters. And if something's a law, whether that's a local ordinance or a state ordinance, the select board can't override that. But the voters of St. George could override that. So if we wanted to take to the community, do you want to make an exception in this case from a rule that we've had? That is something that could be done. And I can tell you, just like I got your email on a Friday, and Monday morning we met to write a letter supporting your application for congressional funding. This is a select board that has been willing to do legislative advocacy on a number of issues. When federal funding was cut for Maine Sea Grant, for example, for community paramedicine, we wrote letters to people in the state or in the feds saying, this is going to hurt our town. Please make a policy change. And so we are willing to consider legislative advocacy and submit things to the voters if that's appropriate.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think that the piece that Jerry is hinting at is regardless of what we end up doing with the building, the pound needs to be rebuilt, the working water needs to be rebuilt. And so we're trying to figure out where those permits and those things exist at this stage of the game. So we're spending a lot of time.
And those are mostly federal
Yes.
permits.
Yeah, there's some federal, there's some state, there's some Army Corps.
One thing we can't change and don't want to change is that it's gotta be a marine related use for that.
Absolutely.
It's- We're all happy with that.
It may look like a Pizza Hut, but it can't be.
Yeah, the pagodas. I don't think you'll ever shake that name.
It's got a lot of names. Actually, you guys, every community that I go to has a different little name for it. So we're gonna have to figure out how we want to name it. So,
But you know, it's got potential, but then what?
Right.
So I was wondering if you've heard a lot of people in favor of some sort of aquacultural use, because it seems like as the fishery diversifies and we find ways to survive and into the future, aquaculture is definitely on the table. It's something we need to do. And I know a lot of people in aquaculture, and it doesn't, I don't mean it to replace finfish and lobstering and other fisheries, but I think it's going to be part of the mix. And is there some way that this property could be used for that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is.
I mean, that was the oyster guy's original idea, right? Was to raise oysters before he died.
The original idea for this was to have that building be partially an oyster hatchery, an apartment, and then grow out the oysters in the pound. And so a lot of what we are seeing is there are opportunities within the aquaculture space. What those opportunities look like is where we're trying to figure out if there's a space for MCFA to be. And so that would be, how do we figure out how to use this space to train and work with fishermen to get them into aquaculture? As opposed to just another aquaculture incubator space, which exists up and down the coast of Maine. So it would be, with that, as I said, like fishermen, commercial fishermen being our North Star, how do we use this space? And so aquaculture is definitely an emerging opportunity. It is also an emerging risk. And so we want to make sure that we are walking that tightrope with our feet.
But your organization is not at all opposed to aquaculture.
Absolutely not. No, and when I say emerging risk, it's there are a lot of small scale aquaculture businesses that are struggling right now. And so that is a place where pushing people into something that you're saying is going to be the savior when it is another risk is something we want to be very careful about doing.
Yeah.
And so it's how do you make sure that if you're saying, go do this thing, it's actually going to be something that's additive to the small scale fishing business in a way that could be helpful at a time when there's a lot of stressors going on in fishing businesses.
So we have a few questions, and Jerry, I'll let you go, and then
Then, because I just like to do that after then. I always see this project doing some form of agriculture. I really, that's the only way the pound works and things like that. I would love to see us working with the makerspace and getting these kids, if they want to go that direction, and show them what the details and what kind of dedication you need to do to make this work. And this would be the whole base of it. But to answer your question, our board is 100% on agriculture. I'm a lobster fisherman, a water fisherman. May not like it, but I realize it's part of the future, and that's the way it is. And you better engage it instead of just fight it.
And just to clarify, you answered this for me before, but
Yeah.
because we submitted the letter and you're talking about rebuilding the lobster pound, you're not proposing using this as a traditional lobster pound.
Yeah, lobster pounds are no longer.
Lobster pounds is not,
Yeah.
Right.
they don't
So,
make sense.
You've got the title question issue.
There's a lot of questions with that, but there are several other pounds throughout Maine where they are currently using them to grow oysters already. And so, the idea that originally was around this pound could be something that's interesting. If we were not able to come up with funds to rebuild the pound, there are still other ways you could use this space for different types of research, different types of work. And so, we are curating a long list of different ideas that we could use for both the space, water, and work with the waterfront, and the building. So.
Okay, and we've got
Yeah.
at least one question on Zoom. Go ahead. We can't.
Thank you. My name is Eliza Bailey, and I'm the abutting landowner on Haskell Point Road. So I'm very excited about what you all are doing. I wonder if the Fishermen's Association intends to be the long-term owner of the property? Or is that a question that will be answered as time goes on?
Yeah, at this point, we intend to be the long-term owner of this property. But we don't want to make any long-term commitments at the same time. Like our intention is to own it. But if at some point they were like, the only way you can use this thing is to have an aquaculture business owning it and doing those things, like that is not MCFA. But ultimately, like we are hearing through this process that there's a lot of real opportunity for us to use this space to do good. And so our plan is to own it for the long term.
Right. May I ask another question?
Sure.
I know you've been asking lots of communities for ideas, and the aquaculture idea comes up again and again. Since that was the original plan, have you considered, or would it make sense to consider a collaboration with the Mid-Coast School of Technology as an aquaculture education center for high school students or possibly college students, as an adjunct site to the Mid-Coast School, since it's within a reasonable commuting distance?
Yeah, that's a great idea. That is not a partner that has come up in the conversations, but that is a really good one to add to the list if that's the direction that things start to go in. So really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
No problem. Thanks for zooming in. It's like-
Buzz, did
It
you?
looks like is there Summer?
Yeah, Summer.
Summer?
Yeah.
Then Buzz? Go ahead, Summer.
Yeah. Hi, guys. So you kind of touched base on the question a little bit already, but I'm curious what your or the association's ideas, maybe like top 1 or 2 thoughts you guys may have on how to use the facility.
I've got,
Just pause for a minute, Summer, because you're breaking up and Brandon's
you know,
seeing if he
try
can
to fix
improve
it.
your.
I think I heard it. You were looking for my top 1 or 2 ideas. And so I am very happy to add those to the end of this conversation. But what I try and do is I find that if I give my ideas first, it taints the entire pool of ideas after that. So I am more interested in collecting some ideas from the folks in this room, and then I'm happy to throw a couple of the things that we've heard on the table for you to give feedback on. But I'd prefer to wait a moment before I share some of the things that we've been hearing, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have broken for me too. Again, thanks, Ben.
Is that another hand up? David, did you have a question? No. Buzz, did you have something?
Yes. This is before suggestions.
Okay.
The repair work for the pound and the structure itself, do you already have a sense of how much money is going to require for those assignments? That's one question.
Yeah, so we've gotten a couple of quotes, and right now it's ranging from what you need to repair it and what scale of investment you want to make in it. Someplace between 600,000 to $1 million to do the dock and the pound. And so if you needed,
But what about you mentioned utilities inside the.
oh no,
building.
we have not done anything with the building yet because a lot of that is going to depend on what we want to use the building for. So we have not started to collect quotes on building hookups yet.
Okay, just 2 more quick ones.
Yeah, go for it, bud.
You referenced the storms that we all experienced a couple of winters ago.
Yep.
And I made a part-time job of just driving by the building to see how close it was to harm's way.
Yeah,
And it was close.
I'm sure it was. Yep.
And unfortunately, we all know that what we experienced is going to continue, and it's going to be bigger and more destructive.
Yep.
And I just wanted to make sure that was on your radar screen. And part of this question period is, do you expect this to be an insurable proposition once you're done doing this work?
That is not a question for me. I sincerely hope so. I think that the building will be ultimately because of where it is in the how high up it is raised. But we currently it is insured. So we have insurance on the building. The docks are over the water, so you cannot get flood insurance on any structure that is out over the water. So the docks will not be insurable. Also, so Maine Coast Fishermen's Association facilitated a bunch of work in response to those floods. And to date, I don't know any fishing business that received any insurance money in response to those floods. Actually, no, that's a lie. One has, and it was a fish house that was well above the water line that got $2,000 of insurance money. So, the insurance is not ultimately like for the docks and the wharves, those pieces of the business, those are not going to be insurable. The building is what we will, but we currently have it insured. So,
Thanks.
Yeah.
Terry.
All right, can I do another follow-up on that last question about the dock and buzz following storms? Yes, everybody knows Wildcat flooded a little bit. It wasn't severe, about 6 inches of snow, but the original owner that was going to go, he was going to raise the pound 2.5 feet. And I met with contractors to go over the process and that the pricing that he's giving you between $600,000 and $800,000 is also going to the original plans that we've been permitted for and raising it 2.5 feet. So at 2.5 feet, we should not flood out. And to Ben's point,
Wow.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the building will be insurable, the rest of it will not be. It's just similar to the Port Clyde Fisherman's Co-op, my brother's here, you can verify. For us to get flood insurance at the Port Clyde Co-op, it'd be around $60,000 today. In the end, we're better off parking $60,000, especially since we built the co-op to be flooded. We know it floods. We either had to spend $4.5 million to raise it 2.5 feet, or just spend a few $100,000 to let it flood. And that's the choice we made, to let it flood. We've been fortunate the last 2 years, we haven't flooded at all, maybe a few inches and that's it. No damage at all. And hopefully, everybody remembers it was 1978 to 2022 that we went that long, and hopefully we are that way. No one can predict because nobody has a crystal ball. But to Bud's point, we plan on, when we rebuild the pound, everything will be lifted 2.5 feet.
Karen, did you?
Yeah, thank you. So I just wanted to respond to one of the questions about the high school program and CST and what folks might be thinking about with regard to the school here. So I'm on the executive board of the Grace Innovation Center. I've been very closely aligned with Ben, helping the organization with their own strategy. So just wanted to give you some insight into how we're thinking about some of this, because I think most of the folks in this room think of the Grace Innovation Center as just K through 8th grade. Well, our group is working really steadfast on building a high school program. I have kids that have both gone to MCST. It's an incredible value. And so our mission really is to expand that mission of the Grace to be from K through 12th grade as we're working across the country to be the first in the nation to do that. And so Mike and I, Grinnell Moore, who's on the high school committee, and now we just talked with Peter Harris about a new committee that stretches into creativity and entrepreneurship. And so we're already thinking about ways to use that space for the greater community as well. But just so you guys know that it's very closely tied to education and also being sensitive to some of the organizations that are already here, like Herring Gut. As we talk about aquaculture and stuff, those are programs they've already been doing. They're already closely connected to the schools, and we want to be sensitive to those things as well. So there is a group of us that are thinking holistically about that space too.
Yeah, and I would just put on top of that like I'm having conversations with Colby, Herring Gut, Grace, right? Like we don't want to be duplicative in this space. We want to be additive. And that's our ultimate goal is like we want to be lifting each other up. And thus far that's working great.
Steve?
I'm Steve Lindsay. I'm a neighbor in Wildcat. And I just have a question about the grout pile, the granite grout pile. Is that pile formally protected by the town? For a lot of people in town, it's considered a monument to the granite industry and the historical part of St. George. And it looks like it's immovable, but it's not. It had a partner grout pile that went out to the east. And that's all gone. It's been
Sure.
sold for riprap
Yep.
and landfill. So is that,
There's no town or state protection on the granite pile.
well, I would like to put in a word that you guys respect it.
We may respect it enough to protect the coast with it.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't own it all.
Steve,
We don't
is
know
it,
it
is
all.
it better in a pile or is it better in front of people's houses protecting their houses? Cause that's what it would be put in,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I like it as a pile.
Understood. We'll add your comments into the list. I
On the
appreciate
other hand, if you could sell it, it could fund your.
it. It might find a little bit of our work. So that's very true as well.
My guess is that you all would need to, depending on what your final plan looks like, likely need to expand parking, right? And wouldn't that be the likely spot?
That would be the only spot to expand any parking.
Well, I looked at that property.
Yeah.
From the point of view of the sailing, St. George sailing.
Sure, yep.
And we were wondering what was going on with the property. And there is room for parking, it looks like, before the grout pile. But you wouldn't own the whole grout pile, so you just destabilize it if you took part of it away, I would think. I thought that the town had looked into, the Conservation Commission had looked into preserving or doing something with that.
Steve, I just want to give you, so we have all the prior permits and things. The prior owner was, that grout pile was coming down. So
Okay.
if we take the grout pile down, it's nothing personal. It's just business.
Rocks, man, just rocks.
Randy, did
The
you have
original owner
a?
was taking the grout pile.
I think pretty soon we're gonna have to
Yeah.
wrap up
Yep.
this topic, but I
Your
know
time,
Randy had
your
his hand
time,
up.
so yeah.
Have been at, like Jerry and Mike, lifelong residents here, like a family. But, as you get into your spiel, you were saying that you guys represent, and I know you do, the whole coast, fishermen, the whole coast.
Absolutely, yep.
But in the last little bit of conversation, it's been the boat school, it's been the CTE, it's been, how is that figuring into students in Bolton?
Yeah.
You see what I'm
Oh,
going with?
absolutely.
Like,
Yep.
To me, it's like you're saying one thing, but now you're saying
Did,
local.
did I say it?
No, but
Right?
it's a lot of the conversation has been suddenly the local, when you said.
Yep.
It's the coast, and I think it's great.
Yep.
You know, the fishermen need help up and down the coast.
Yep.
Young and old. So how do you plan on, I mean, a lot of these ideas you're gonna get people here are gonna be what can benefit our town.
Sure.
I'm in that boat too, but I'd like to see it
Yep.
benefit everybody, like you said.
No, so I'll just hit on a couple of things quickly that we've been hearing through. So one is, it may be that you need a space where next generation students can come into and get experience on the water, on the working waterfront, doing certain things, building certain schools. And we would want to be a center where people could come from around the state, right? And so maybe Grace is somebody that comes in and uses some of that capacity, but it would be also something that we could make available to different RSUs from around the state to come in. Like one of the ideas that popped up in some of our conversations is, in a lot of our marine trades, you need divers that know how to go around commercial, vessels, etc. The average age of divers and people that can weld underwater is like 55. And so there is no place along the coast of Maine where you can train divers. So that was something that could be some small investments that we could make on that property that would allow for people to go and get trained and to do diving, right? Safety at sea training, a lot of things like that. So there's a lot of ways that you could take that building and make it so that you could do different types of training, education opportunities in a space that could be additive for different user groups to come in. And so whether it's a herring gut or a Colby or a Grace or Portland, right? You've got a space that is set up for folks to come into to do educational work for those that are interested in the marine trades, whether that's fishing or those industries that support fishing. There's a lot of opportunities that do additive things. One of the other places that we've had some interest is in the aquaculture side, right? And whether that is taking that pound, the original plan for that pound with the grow up oysters inside that pound. One of the ideas was setting up a facility where you could have a pound that was bifurcated with two businesses in there that were fishing owned aquaculture businesses. There's a long lag time between starting a business and actually getting out on the water to grow product. So could you streamline a process where fishermen come in, they learn how they have a product that's already in the ocean, in the water, they already can start building a business, they can learn the trade while they're waiting for their product out of the ocean to grow, right? So it's a feeder system so that you say, as a fisherman, saying, Jerry Cushman, please stop catching lobster and start raising oysters. It's 3 years before he could see a dime out of that. Well, maybe we have him step in and there's already product there that he can start harvesting and growing his brand, growing his story, building his stuff. So there's ways like that you could say, we want to build a streamlined process for some businesses to come in, which is an interesting. The one that I am most excited about, though, is I personally believe that scallops are part of our future. And whether that is wild harvest or aquaculture, I'm sure you guys are familiar with Sea Scale and the work that they are doing in the aquaculture world.
Right here.
Right close to home.
Here just a few weeks ago, it was hearing gut that you're talking about.
Those guys are great,
Yeah.
right? And their
It's
stuff is
amazing.
really compelling when you start thinking about diversification of fishing businesses. But regardless of whether it's fishing business or others, right now, if you are a wild harvest fisherman, you're catching large scallops, you can get someplace between $30 and $50 a pound just for the meats, right? That is good money to be made. And so we have an opportunity to be thinking about the future of aquaculture in scallops. There's nobody doing work in scallop aquaculture. Then one of the more fun places for us fishermen are our North Star, right? We have rotational access areas in state waters. So basically you fish down an area in state waters and then we close it for 3 years. The idea would be potentially to go and collect spat out in the Gulf of Maine, grow it out to a slightly larger size in the pound, be able to sell that off to aquaculture businesses to grow out in their aquaculture. And then also when these areas are closed down to commercial fishing, bring that spat in, overseed those grounds. So then you start having a more abundant inshore scallop fishery. That is something that happens routinely in Japan, right? So there are examples where this happens. There's no data that shows that it works in Maine. There's also no science being done to show that it does work or doesn't work. And so what we're trying to figure out is like, if scallops are an opportunity, are there ways that this facility could help facilitate that? There's also bay scallops that are something that are more routinely thought of as a Massachusetts stock. As the waters get a little bit warmer, bay scallops are a premium product. They don't take as long to grow out. We don't have any seed or capacity to grow them for aquaculture businesses. So there are some ways that we are hearing scallops bubbling up as a unique opportunity here. And then the final one I'll add is we have Grace, we have Colby. Just a couple of peninsulas down, we've got the Darling Marine Center for the University of Maine. Darling is on a river. This facility is on an ocean, right? And so there may be a really unique opportunity to say, if we want to bring undergraduate students, high school students, college graduate students, and fishermen together to try and solve unique problems. One of the problems that we see in our work is that we don't have collisions of people happening. We have silos being formed. And so there's a really unique opportunity with this building and this space to collapse silos, force people to work together, bring people together, and solve interesting problems as you're thinking about what the fishermen are seeing on the water and how you start feeding the fishermen problems to the scientists, right? And then to the next generation, who are going to be building the solutions to those problems. And maybe you incorporate some business stuff so you get the next generation Sea Scale also in that building, thinking about what they can be doing. So I think there's a number of different ways that we see opportunity in bringing science, fishermen, community, business into this space to lift things up. We don't have the perfect answer right now for what we think is perfect for this space. So please go online, fill out our survey. If you have ideas, please seed them in there. Like, I am looking for half-baked ideas. I'm looking for really bad ideas. I'm looking for amazing ideas, right? Like, I'm trying to throw a bunch of stuff in here so that then I can start sifting through it, working with our staff and other friends and partners to like lift stuff up, chase things, run it to ground. And then I'll be bringing those ideas to the board, probably summer, fall, with like, hey, here's what we're seeing, here's what we're thinking, what do we want to go chase and figure out what we want to do with it.
There is a provision for what is it, a 2-bedroom apartment or something? In there?
Yeah. Oh,
So,
but
you know,
I'm moving up.
have a nice waterfront house.
Caretaker.
The view is pretty sweet there.
Yes.
All right, I know you want to wrap it up. I just want to do a follow-up with Ben, and just because my name was actually on the agenda as well, but I want to make.
Jerry said he wasn't gonna talk. I just want to know, for the record,
Yeah.
Jerry said he wasn't gonna talk.
No, I just want to read, Ben called it a gift, right? And I thought it was a gift, right? Getting Wildcat. It's actually a lot of work and
Right.
maybe probably a burden. Actually, it is a burden, a lot of sorts. You got David Emery and the association and the lady that spoke.
David, you're not.
That down on, they had a right way through it, and they're doing work, and we have neighbors that are complaining to us about the work they're doing.
That's all fixed.
I know, it's all fixed, but it's people complaining all the time and wondering what we're going to do with this property. And the burden of trying to raise money to do it correctly. But I want to make everybody insured here. And you can spread the word. We will do the best we can. We may not be able to please Steve, and the rock pile might have to go. Sorry, that's just the way, you know what I mean? But we will include the community all the way. And when we're done picking what we're gonna do with Wildcat, the first people that are gonna know is the community. And that's what I wanna make sure that you guys know. No rumors, that everybody can create any rumor, nothing's been picked. When it is picked, you guys will be the first to know.
Well, I think the timing is perfect because of Colby, because of Darling, because of the leadership at Hearing Gut today.
Yep.
And you guys, you know, those stars are aligned. Whether you can make it happen, it's still a reach. But you've got some tremendous people with a lot of smarts thinking about it. And we're all behind you.
Well, we really appreciate all the time you've all committed tonight. I really
Dave?
appreciate it, and yeah.
And this might be a good opportunity. I'm David Emery, one of the residents on Haskell Point Road, and we are all excited about the work that Ben and Jerry. I like Ben and Jerry, don't you? Yeah. Rocky Road, yeah. Yeah, that's what I live on, Rocky Road. Anyway, we are very pleased to have a group of people that are thinking about Maine coast, thinking about fishermen, thinking about conservation, thinking about agriculture, thinking about ways that we can protect and extend our heritage for another generation. So we're very excited, and we'll be supportive of whatever plan you come up with, and hopefully we'll get you part of it in some way.
Bright lights and loud music.
Yeah.
What I'm planning.
Yeah. As long as you've got wild parties and invite us from the road.
All right.
But I thought it might be a good idea just to mention the construction equipment.
Be a great place for them.
Yeah, great place for a party.
Our road suffered terrible damage during those storms.
I saw the works going on right now on.
Yeah, we've just started it, and we've got some pieces of the puzzle back together again. We expect it to be done mid-May, maybe. And when it's finished, it's gonna be a nice looking wall, similar to the piece further up the road that was done a few years ago. We're going to landscape, we'll have, sprayed and smoothed the grass, and so that, what you will see hopefully will be a nice road that you are frightened to drive over. And we hope that it will.
Does that mean anybody can come down there?
No.
You bring your own bottle.
Oh.
All right, well, thank you,
Thanks.
everybody. If anybody has other comments or questions for Ben, I think you should send them directly to him because unfortunately, we do have other things we need to get to tonight on our agenda. Not more than you, but just in addition.
No, seriously, thank you. I'm so appreciative of all your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks to see you.
Thank you. So, yes, maybe you got, hey, if you guys can talk outside, that would be helpful. Sorry. So we have, we voted on the budget at the last meeting, but you know how at the end of the annual report, there are these other warrant articles that we vote on every, town meeting, and we did not vote on those last time, and so they've been circulated. And there's one in addition to what's on here, which we're clarifying with Bill Kelly. Last year at the town meeting, the community authorized the select board to set grave prices and stuff at the cemetery. And what we're not 100% clear on is whether, since that wasn't done as a referendum issue, and was done as a warrant connected to the budget, is that something that only lasted 1 year that we would need to vote on every year? Or is that authority that we would given sort of for all time, the select board could set the grave prices instead of?
When we did it for cold storage, it was on the ballot. This one was,
Right.
On the fourth meeting, so.
And
I just don't have an answer yet.
yeah, so I think that because of when the annual report gets printed and absentee ballots and, well, there aren't absentee ballots for the town meeting, but we should include that as something we agree to if it turns out Bill Kelly says it needs to be in here.
And obviously, I would, if you approve the rest of them, I would ask you to approve that one on the condition that it may be removed if we get legal advice that
That's already been taken. Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the articles that we were given.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
All in favor? That's all 5 of us. Thank you.
And you all can
Thank you,
sign.
We're gonna sign it?
Yeah.
All right, and then
The other warrant that you have to sign is the one to actually call the meeting as well. So
okay,
I assume, I don't know if you need a vote on that.
yes.
I don't know if you have the choice
I'll
of
make-
holding a meeting.
Right, but I'll make a motion that I think we did previously actually say we wanted to hold our town meeting on May 11th. Or this is the beginning of the town meeting starts at 8 in the morning on May 11th when people go to vote. And
Correct.
then
That should
voting
be
is from
well.
8 to 8, and then on the 12th is the town meeting. So I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? 5. And Brian, do you want to nominate Jacob?
Yeah, I can do that. Like to nominate Jacob Dinson for moving up from an alternate to a regular position on the Harbor Committee.
I'll second that. All in favor? 5. And that's happening because Dave Szymanska has retired. I don't want to say resigned, but he's certainly done his
He's retired.
many years of service to our committee. And Bill Mraz is now the acting chair while they explore another possibility.
I believe that Bill's term
Why?
runs out, this
That's
year.
The end of June.
That's why he agreed to do it.
And I don't believe that he intends to serve again. So that committee is in a bit of need of leadership. There's plenty of leadership. What they need is formal leadership, somebody that's willing to be a chair.
What they were hoping to do is find a new member that would also like to be chairman. but is also a fisherman and knows how to round wharf.
Yeah, right.
It's a big ass. So-
Yeah. There's someone out there.
Yeah, and I wondered about, is it Jason Ludwig?
Mhm.
Who served,
He's
you know
really
him?
busy.
I know,
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's on the
I
resilience
know he is.
committee and he's really, I mean, he doesn't have an opportunity to come very often.
Right.
Because of
Right.
his work.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I think he's a smart guy, but
Right,
yeah,
I know, that's the
Yeah.
problem is the time.
he's busy.
And I don't think the harbor committee is anything like. The harbor committee, when they were working on the landing, was more like the resilience committee is right now.
Love harbor committee meetings.
Yeah, I do too, but
It's about 3 or 4 a year.
now it shouldn't be as demanding as it was. But if people know someone who might be a good candidate, let Brian know or Bill Mraz, and they'll work on that.
Or Ryan.
Or Ryan,
Ryan.
yes. And I meant to say when everybody was here and they were talking about scallops and, that we're having this event on April 9th, which is the last of the Working Waterfront series. And Jerry Cushman will talk about harvesting scallops and, Jeff Schroeder will talk about oysters and other people will be talking and will be eating delicious seafood. So if, people haven't bought a ticket to that, I would encourage you to do that. And on April 30th, we're having the drinking water quality panel discussion, which is gonna be great. So
Is there one more? When is the candidates night? That's coming right up.
that's
Play.
April 8th
Yeah.
upstairs at 6.
So it's here or in the
It's,
library?
it's gonna be here this year because we are expecting more people. Last year wasn't so bad, but the year before it was really crowded at the library. And so to avoid that, it's gonna be here this time.
This year, there's 3 out of the 4 elections are contested, which is
More
not,
candidates.
yeah, so we
That's good.
got there, that may warrant more space.
But Chris Williamson, the library board president, is still the moderator of it.
So that's April 8th. I just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify that here.
Yeah, it's April 8th. So Brandon, when we met on the last time, you didn't get to do your town manager report, right? Because you disappeared from Zoom when your phone died? Was that?
We've met since then.
Okay, well, I'm just,
That was the meeting before.
all right,
Yeah.
never mind.
Not a ton to report out on right now. We are just sort of gearing up for election season and what comes of that. Aaron and I had a meeting this week with, now forgetting the name of the program.
The
But
Land
about
and
a-
Water Conservation Fund.
Thank you, Aaron. I forgot you were with us. About a potential funding opportunity for Snow's Point. And so it was a helpful meeting because I think Aaron and I put together Aaron put together with some guidance from me, like a pretty conservative ask for the project, and what I think that they are more interested in funding is something much more aggressive. And so, meaning what he'd said is that our original ask of $35,000 would maybe not be all that competitive, and that there was,
Ask for more?
yes.
Is that the point?
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
What could we do?
Well, so there were pieces that Aaron and I didn't consider, like they fund a bit more infrastructure, so the road going in, and
Paved parking lot.
which they could do, as well as facilities like picnic tables and gazebos, whatever it may be.
Great.
It is great. I think the major hang up, and it's not necessarily a hang up, but well, there's 2 pieces. It requires a bit more sort of intentionality from this group. The first off is that it's matching, right? And so, sure, ask for more, but you got to raise more.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it means it's
Like Fort Point.
it's much easier to raise funds knowing that there is a match,
Right.
in my experience, in nonprofits anyway.
Would we have to raise it or would what we put in the budget would that count towards matching?
That is a way of raising it. You can raise it via taxes,
There
you
is
can raise it via donations, other grants.
So there's some in the budget this year. Right?
Correct. But the bigger piece that I want this group to consider is that it essentially creates a boundary around the property that conserves or preserves this in perpetuity. And if we were to ever discontinue the project there, we would essentially have to create an equivalent one somewhere in town. So,
An equivalent outdoor,
yes. And they won't fund the indoor part of the project. They'll fund part of the facility. So if it's storage for outdoor gear, or if it's to have bathrooms available for outdoor, recreators, then that can be part of it. But like just a community meeting space that's indoors won't meet
Yeah.
their funding
And
requirements.
they don't want to find something that then the town turns around and says, we're gonna sell it or something like it.
so what?
Or put up a public works garage there or
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
But I guess I feel like, since I don't know exactly what the proposal was for the outdoor recreational space, it's really hard to envision us walking away from that forever. You know what I mean?
Right.
But what if it was something like somebody wanted to put housing there, so you had two competing?
Didn't it come with a
interests?
condition?
That's right. When we
Scouting?
accepted it from youth and scouting, it had to be
can't-
used for
Right.
that sort of
That's
purpose.
a deeded condition, isn't it?
I do
Well,
not believe it's a deeded condition.
right.
Well, it was supposed to, I was under the understanding it transferred from youth and scouting to the town.
Well, correct, but I don't believe that it was ever a deeded condition
Right.
for even the Youth and Scouting Council. They acted as it was.
It's an understanding.
I know it's in the,
But-
at least in the bylaws, but.
Yes, it was in the bylaws of the organization. It really should have been
If they
done
want
in
it
the original
to be
deed.
Right.
by
Yeah,
it, they
it
have
may
to
have
put it in the deed
verbal
now.
Condition.
Yeah, it was essentially.
We can look into that.
But even if somehow, the building burned down or, came up with a different use for the building, I can't imagine that we'd be giving up the outdoor recreational use that you're considering.
No, I mean, I don't think so. We're talking about, the original or the plan currently is some like multi-use trail systems that offer alternative recreation than what we currently have in town. We have a lot of places that you can walk, but we don't have a place that you can cross-country ski or ride a bike through the woods, or play disc golf or snowshoe, any of the things that are more suited to other types of traffic than walking trails.
And those are the things that are in your proposal
Correct.
to them.
That's yes.
What is the deadline for this?
The good news is we have a lot of time. We were too late this year, so now we are first in line for next year. And, Aaron and I will be doing a site visit with him sometime, just when the weather's nicer and not so muddy trekking around there. So late spring, early summer, to sort of assess the property and see if it's a good match.
A bigger amount of money and a match, knowing this community, I think it might happen.
Right.
I think people like that, would like that. I think if they saw something really more inspiring and substantial, that would be, it'd be more, it would have more appeal than something small scale, maybe.
That's what I think too.
Well, I think so, especially if we're essentially doing it at half or less.
Summer has her hand up. Summer.
I just wanted to comment on, are you still sounding like a robot? Or can you guys hear me?
Can you type your question and we'll answer it?
Yeah. If you can type it in the chat,
Can hear.
it'd be easier. You can. I don't know.
Better than it did last time.
Yeah. Last time was
Well, I look forward to hearing more detail about what you're envisioning, and if we have plenty of time, then, that kind of fits right in with our whole
And it would allow,
plan.
it would allow time, to fundraise, knowing, that this is a possibility and more likely of one if we, and he sort of has a checklist that can tell us how strong our application is. So Summer's question is, we had discussed an equipment rental facility, like snowshoes, cross-country skis. That is correct. I mean, I would just clarify, it's more of a loaning, facility, but yes, that is still part of the program plan. And any storage of that equipment, I believe could be supported by this grant.
But it wasn't a rental, right? It was like
No.
be free for.
Just like-
Yeah, that's what
Like the canoes.
clarification I said.
Yeah.
It's a loaning program, not a rental program.
So are you thinking about something like a gazebo or something outside like that? I mean, it just,
Yeah, I mean, I think some sort of picnic area so that if you wanted to go ride your bike on the trails and then have lunch after, and there's a bathroom there that's open to the public and so on, then that's a possibility. We don't really have any sort of final or formalized plan for the outdoors. Yeah, until this point hadn't really needed one. We were kind of facing the more urgent renovations. Aaron, anything you want to add from our meeting? Any takeaway you had?
I guess I'd just add it seemed fairly flexible as well. Like he kept mentioning how you can amend the timeline during the project, you can amend the cost, the scope, and things like that, and they'll work with us to do that. And then also the land acquisition part, so we could at the same time, if we wanted to, pay for land acquisition and use the funds in the same year or in different projects. So it just seemed very broad and flexible.
Well, I
Other
think
than the
that
deeded rights, but right.
I think that's like a sort of partner program. They have a different program that's more focused on land acquisition, but you can pair the two together in one application. So meaning if somebody had a sliver of land behind us that they were willing to sell that would allow that property to access the river, for
that would
example.
be so
They're
wonderful.
cool, yeah.
That'd be wonderful.
I got the sense that they were the same program, but I could be wrong. But anyway, doesn't matter that much, but
Well, that would be good.
So anyway, we just didn't want to move forward with that, knowing that there is this accountability to the town to sort of hold it for that use in perpetuity.
Well, I mean, even if it's not deeded, that was definitely implied in the gift of the property,
That's right.
that it would stay.
Yeah,
For general use.
I'm comfortable with that.
I am
think
too.
that's a worthwhile thing.
I think I shared with the Youth and Scouting Council sort of a similar disclaimer that Ben shared, which was like, based on the way that the deed is, there is a reality where at some point the town could sell this off. I'm entering this, with zero intent of that, but just wanting to make sure that folks were aware.
Wow.
I do agree that we accepted the donation with the intention to use it and use it for those types of purposes. Yeah, that's why Parks and Rec has been involved since day one.
Yeah.
And I don't see any problem from committing to keeping the property in that way.
It aligns with our open space plan
Right.
as well that's going on. and so-
May even eventually provide access to the river, who knows?
Right.
I think it's a great idea.
Great. And then the last piece is that Karen Riscala has listing documents ready to go. I need to sign them, but I just want to give them a more thorough final review before doing so. But I expect them to be listed, within a week.
This is on town acquired property.
Tax acquired property.
Yeah.
So one on Ridge Road, one on Klein Road. Once those are listed, there's another property that will go up. It's a cumbersome process. And so I wanted to get two up there and then have her start working on the next.
So they should be up soon.
Yes.
The Ridge Road is that one that has a house on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't you tell me there was some Colby thing Oh, yeah, you were gonna share with us about, they put in for raising.
Oh, my goodness, yes, sorry. I've been using a lot of my time off the last several days to do some house renovations. So I almost forgot about it.
Because he's gonna become a full-time St. George resident again.
Yes,
Woohoo!
by the middle of April or early April. So anyway, Colby made an application for congressional directed spending as well that involves the raising of Cold Storage Road. Essentially, it's a two-pronged project that would involve raising the road and then combining the wharfs of the former general store and Monhegan boat line with the idea that ferry traffic, once they leave, instead of being dumped out into the road, would be able to walk the wharf over to the Ditmat, the
Landing.
the landing, the coffee shop, whatever it may be. And so I said that, we just completed, or we just gotten some design options back for the road. We'd still have a public process ahead of us, and the project will have to go through that process, and that's what will dictate the decision, because it's going to involve a lot of community input. But I felt good about them including us in that, knowing that, there is likelihood. Knowing the amount of money that needs to be raised to do these projects, it seemed foolish to, step out of this because the timing was slightly less than ideal. But I don't think that it's not the ideal process, but I don't think that it is really much of a problem. I just wanted to make sure that people.
I think it would be highly desirable to have that be shared space and to not have everybody walking through that parking, where the accident happened. And
Have you formally told the resilience committee?
I have not.
Okay, because that would be really important.
Yeah.
So they could share that with Sebago.
did he give you anything in writing? This is from Paul Urinek, I assume.
Yes, correct.
Did he just talk to you about this?
We spoke about it. I don't have anything. I may have an email thread that
Well, you could ask him to share their application. They must have described, even if there's a paragraph describing the connection.
Yeah.
So, and how this would look if they got the money.
Yep.
I mean, they can't do that without us anyway, right?
No.
And they are aware of that.
Yeah.
And so it was a collaborative application, but they were willing to take on the completion of it. A lot of people, they spend a year on CDS applications. And Colby has lobbyists and we don't. And so I was happy to let them.
Did they ask for a dollar figure? Or it was just funding a
yes.
particular project?
Yes, they did. I don't know what it is now, but
Okay.
I will
But is
find
it
that and share it.
millions? Do you remember? Is it? Because there's a lot of pieces to raising a road.
There is.
Yeah.
Well, and that
They're raising the dock too.
changing all of that, yes.
Yeah.
But I still think that if they could pull it off, we would all benefit greatly.
I'm not saying that. I'm just curious
I
about
believe
what.
the design that they outlined was the option from Sebago that didn't force any abutters to raise their properties as well.
See, there's some difficulties with that.
Right, and we
Yeah.
may not go
Right.
with that one, but
Right.
I think that they felt more comfortable putting that in than,
Okay. Okay.
something that involves, private property
Yeah.
opposed to.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're at 8 o'clock. How about, since I know we didn't do committee reports last time because we ran out of time, right?
Yeah.
Are there, any that we need to take 5 minutes and do updates like the planning board usually has?
The planning board, just a 2-minute update. Last meeting, there were no pending applications and David Miller came and discussed that whole subdivision, putting 2 duplexes on his property. And I think Ann Cox was going to reach out to you, Brandon, to talk to Bill Kelly because the legislature has plans, but they haven't changed the laws yet. So the question is, can we do something in the town before the legislature changes the law about having?
Bill Kelly, sorry,
Go ahead, no.
his advice was that even if the legislature has changed, we can't do anything until the ordinance is changed.
Okay, well, that's what I thought, but I just let them talk about that because the planning board thought they could do it first without any changes, any legal changes. So has that been conveyed to Anne? She knows
Yeah, I
that?
sent that her.
Okay,
I sent that to her a couple of weeks ago now, maybe a week and a half, but I have not heard back from her.
okay, and tomorrow night, for tomorrow night's planning board, there's no pending applications again. And there's gonna be the discussion of their duties under the comprehensive plan. That's gonna be the entire meeting. Okay, that's it.
Was there anything from the harbor committee that was,
Other than nobody wants to be chairman.
well, what about the parking
We talked about the parking. Braden asked me to have them do that and.
tenants harbor land?
Yes, and they basically. They said that they don't necessarily, I mean, they didn't vote on anything, but they. Basically agreed that they don't really agree on doing like 4-hour parking. Because even for residential people, that's not really enough time to be out on the ocean. But they do like the idea of a Juniper Street parking lot and encouraging. Fishermen to park there and work down. But they were hoping that like they would discuss it more if that got approved.
Then that. I personally, and share this with Ryan, we don't want to add regulation to the public landing if we're not offering alternative parking for it.
That's basically, that was the consensus.
Did they discuss the idea of 6-hour parking at all though? Because that was my conversation with Ryan, is that 6 hours likely allows time for somebody to bring their personal boat out for the day, but it doesn't allow you to park there all day every day.
I'm not sure they specifically meant to talk about 6 hours. Ryan might have brought it up, but I don't. I think their general consensus was what they wanted was to know more about this parking. And if there is an option, then maybe they could consider recommending an hour.
But otherwise, leave it as
There's
is.
only 7 spots in the public land, so. they're
But
gone-
they also
they're gone by-
park on the street though, too, don't they?
Yeah.
So you're really talking probably a dozen vehicles. So I do think that we will continue to do an sort of a written breakdown where there's parking and where we need parking, so that we have sort of an analysis and can make recommendations about moving ahead with Juniper Street or not, get more input about that. So were there any other committees that needed?
Nothing urgent for me.
Okay. How about the resilience committee? Because they've got on March 31st, they have a big.
we have another community engagement meeting. And it's very interesting to see when they run the GIS viewer to see properties that if they're under high astronomical tide, climate change and hurricane. I mean, most of the coast is underwater. My personal property, the only thing that's not underwater is my garage. So it's very stirring to see that. I mean, you might think
This is a projection.
I don't
over
think
how
the
many
view
years.
is on lowland either.
on, I mean, that was say like 2070, I'll be dead, but,
Well, that's what I'm asking. When?
but even 2030, you see dramatic changes. Yeah.
That's close.
Now, modeling is a series of, guesses that they put in. So it could be wrong, it could, but it's very interesting to see, places like McClune's completely underwater, Spruce Head. There's like one little section that's above water.
Yeah.
And there was a woman on the committee and she said, well, all the roads are flooded. I won't be able to get to my home. So I don't know. It's very, very interesting. I mean, it's not scary to think about. I think it's very educational to just let your mind go there and think, what can we do to prepare ourselves for that eventuality? Yeah. Because, yeah, what year were you born?
1989.
Oh my God. Well, you might still be alive. How are you? Oh, Ryan. Wow. So anyway, the meeting on the 31st is gonna be very, very interesting.
Yeah, so and that's at the library at what time?
5:30, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, it's on my calendar.
South Thomaston.
No, it's
Here.
here. There is a separate meeting in South Thomaston. They were trying to search out a new location, I think, and I don't know how they solved that. So,
All right, well, is there anything else we need to do? One thing is that, Brandon tells me that we're gonna have to talk junkyards again at our next meeting.
okay.
And I forget what I was looking up, something that didn't relate to junkyards. But I did, come across a list of laws that the select board has responsibility for enforcing. And one of them is the junkyard law. So, you know, when we had that conversation with Terry, where he was asking us what to do, and I said, well, we can't tell you what to do, because normally, you know, like the president isn't supposed to tell the attorney general's office whom to prosecute, and the governor isn't supposed to tell the state police or whatever. Normally, and for most of his work, we are not allowed to tell him what to do. But it looks like we do have more of a role than I realized about junkyards. So before we come back and get asked to do something, we will share what our job is, so we
Okay.
all are clear on that, because I haven't.
Turned up several things too, so like, some of the abandoned
Yeah.
buildings that have come up in previous meetings, that
Right.
would actually fall to you all as well.
Right. So, it's different. It's important for us to know if it is our job versus
Yeah.
saying, oh, that's Terry's job.
Okay.
All right, does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Don't move.
Okay.
All in favor? That's 5. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Sharon, hope you feel better.